Coping with Tre Tailor, giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we'll always be coping with something. Coping. Hey there, thank you so much for joining us for Coping. I'm Tre Tailor. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. 'Tis the season for us to be coping with those over 18 students in our lives. They're going on to the next adventure. Now, whether that means off to college or off to a new job or the real world, as we say, oftentimes we still are financially responsible for those babies. Not so little babies anymore, big babies. And we are re-airing an interview we did with attorney Ashley Jackson from last year. Listen, she shares some great information about what we can do, what we should do, and what we are legally obligated to do and legally cannot do for our kids over the age of 18. Check it out. It's some great information. Hey, before that, hey, don't forget to check out the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Scrolling, you will see information about community events, job listings, financial resources, including help with your rent, mortgage, bills, and so much more. We're streaming live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please post, share, like, and follow so we can get the message to the masses, because today we are coping with dealing with our adult over 18 children financially. Attorney Ashley Jackson with Myers Jackson Law Firm has some great information. Check it out. Ashley Myers Jackson joins us. She is an attorney practicing in the Columbia, South Carolina area, and she specializes in real estate planning, and personal injury law. Her goal is to provide quality legal services that are relatable, comfortable, and convenient for the clients that she serves. Attorney Jackson, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Trey, for having me.
Absolutely. Let's talk first about, when do people need to start estate planning? I mean, I think we think about it as, this is for my mother or my grandmother or somebody like that. But when do we really need to start planning?
Honestly, everyone who's at least 18 years old should have some version of an estate plan. Your 18-year-old's plan will not look like an 81-year-old's plan, but certainly they should have certain items in place. I like to tell my clients that estate planning is something that should be done kind of on a holistic level. Like, it's not just, okay, what happens once I pass away? And I use words like transition because I don't like certain words. But once I transition, everyone thinks that's all we're planning for, but it's not. Estate planning I like to break it up in like 3 phases. There is a life phase, and a phase that actually affects you while you're living. And then there's that transition phase, the phase that kind of comes about once you pass away. And then there is what I call hybrid phase. That's where you may have heard of trust and things of that nature. For estate planning, trust are documents that survive both life and death. So estate planning really should be looked at in a holistic view. And everyone who's at least 18 should have some level of that planning.
Right. So let's break those 3 down and talk about what needs to happen under all of those. So first of all, anybody 18 years and older should be estate planning. Would you agree that, because another thing I hear people say is, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to leave anybody. Yeah.
And so having assets is a important piece to estate planning, but it's not the only piece. The life portion that we're going to talk about, that's where you would give a third party authority to act on your behalf for matters that concern you personally.
Gotcha.
And that's if you're incapacitated or cannot make decisions for yourself, you're giving someone else authority to do that. And whether you have assets or not, that's an important piece. So if you had a healthcare issue and you were unable to vocalize or verbalize what needs to be done, it is always good to have a third party already prepared and ready to be able to make decisions for you. Same with your financial affairs or your business matters. You would need a third party to speak for you. So we have what we call a durable power of attorney for that. And then a living will. A living will is something we hope no one really ever has to use, but that document comes into play if someone's considered terminal, and it kind of just gives instructions on what needs to happen, in that particular time frame. So really, that life piece has nothing to do with whether or not you have a home or whether or not you have a car. Like, that doesn't matter. Everyone needs someone to speak for them at some point in time, or at least be prepared for that if the time ever came for that.
Because what you're trying to protect are not your assets, it's your life.
It's your life.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because you're right. That's anybody. Because after 18, your legal guardianship, I guess, is taken away from your parents. Is that the
Yeah, I think it's crazy, but when we don't really think about it as often as we should. It's like, we want our kids to be grown, right? We want them to be 18. We want them to be independent. We want them to be all these things. But for 18 whole years, they were our babies, and we were giving them, all this care and attention, and being there, and walking them through certain things in life. There's a point where you let them go, but you're still there, right? And so just because they turn 18 doesn't mean that they won't need you for certain things. And so, but the law says, whether they need you or not, you really don't have the right to have access to their financial affairs, or you don't have the right to know about their health care matters. You don't have the right to even know their grades. And even when you pay for the education, you don't have the right to know those things. So that's the that's the piece where we come in with what we call our young adult protection plan. That's a plan that we set in place for young adults who are new to adulthood and who still might need their parents for certain types of, hand holding, if you will.
Yeah. I love that. Ashley Myers Jackson joins us. She's an attorney, a real estate and estate planning attorney based in Columbia, South Carolina. And she's already dropped some major nuggets. One is that when your child is legally an adult at 18, not only does that mean they're an adult, and they can drink or smoke or vote or whatever else. That means, as a parent, even though we know, that 18 doesn't mean you are magically grown, but if something happens as the parent, you really no longer have a legal right to them.
Yeah, you don't. And I'm speaking not from things that I'm hypothesizing or hypotheticals. I'm speaking from things that I've actually experienced, where parents have called and said, listen, my child is in college. He had a mental break. They took him to a facility. I don't know what facility. They won't tell me. I can't even speak to my child, because at that point, if the child's having a break, they can't make decisions.
Coherent. Right.
So it's days before you even know where your child is located and can even have a conversation, because the facility is going to wait until that child says, find my parents.
Yeah, versus that's big. That's big, Ashley, especially, when we're sending our kids off to college thinking they're straight. We have no legal anymore connection to them, and we have to. So then let me ask you this, because I did want to go through the life transition hybrid thing, and I want to come back to that. But what do parents need to do? Or I guess the 18-year-old needs to do it in conjunction with their parents.
Yeah. So what we suggest is that maybe as parents, you, on their 18th birthday, you as a present, maybe offer them this young adult protection plan. And obviously the child has the right to decide who those people should be, like who the person can be that can access their grades, or who the person should be that can speak on their behalf. But you want someone to be in place, even if it's not you. And I say that all the time.
Someone responsible. Yeah.
Yes, someone, or at least someone who you might trust that can relay information to you if necessary. So I just suggest that on the 18th birthday, maybe the parent sit down with the child, and maybe with a lawyer that you trust, to discuss these things. But at the end of the day, the child does have the right to make the decision. But most children that I've engaged, they still want their parents involved, and they really think that their parents can be involved. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that, the child is against it or anything. It's just that the law says that child has the right to say no to the parent.
So you sit down with a trusted lawyer, you and your child, and what are you writing up? What are you developing? What are
We're
you?
developing a healthcare power of attorney, and that's the document where the child would essentially say, okay, hey, this person can speak for me if I can't speak for myself for health reasons. It will also allow them to make certain designations about whether or not they would like their organs donated, whether or not they like to be on life support, or for how long, if that ever occurred, and also tube feeding. So all of that is kind of wrapped into your healthcare power of attorney. We also do what we call a durable power of attorney, but that's kind of a stranger word for a financial power of attorney.
Yeah.
That document would allow someone to act on your behalf for business purposes. So if a bill needed to be paid, you can call Verizon and say, hey, Verizon, I have a power of attorney for my son. I need to pay his bill. And you could also then go to that child's bank and say, hey, he owes me $83 for this bill. I'm going to take that $83 and go pay this bill. So it allows you to be able to handle business matters for your children. And so it's just a great tool to have in the event that
Yeah.
you need it. I will say, though, these are very strong and powerful documents. So you have to be careful who you give this authorization to, because the way that we draft these documents in South Carolina is those documents are effective the moment you sign them. So this is not, if I can't speak for myself only at that time, is it a prompted thing? No, they are effective the moment you sign them. So you have to make sure that whoever you're giving this authority to is someone you can trust and
Right.
someone who's going to do the things that you would do for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Ashley Myers Jackson joins us. She is an attorney. She's telling us about how to protect our semi adult children, our 18-year-old and over children. You know what, Ashley? I think what you just said is so powerful. To me, this was the moment in the interview, because I know, I mean, I didn't. I mean, I have an adult child, but I know I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
that, and I don't think I am, and you tell me, I don't think I'm in the minority.
No, by no means are you in the
Yeah.
minority. And to be frank with you, I went to college and my parents didn't have those documents. My brothers went to college, my parents didn't have those documents. And I never really even heard about, planning for an 18-year-old until, I got into this practice area. And so you are not in the minority. Many people think this way. And many people just really believe they have authority to still do things. And the child believes it too.
Yeah.
So
And
no
is
one
this
really knows.
right? And now, is this nationwide or is this state by state?
This is a state by state thing. All estate planning is state by state. So if you're listening in a different state, you just want to make sure that you reach out to a lawyer who's licensed to practice in your state. A lot
Right.
of states kind of do things similarly when it comes to estate planning, but you just kind of want to make sure you're working with someone who understands your state rules.
Well, let me ask you this. So what happens, scenario, which happens a lot, you live in one state and then the child goes to college in another state. Do you have to have it a dual state agreement?
You don't. As long as and there's a rule that as long as your documents are drafted effectively for your state, then you can utilize them in another state.
Okay. Okay.
But I will say this though, if it ever gets to a point where you become a permanent resident in another state, you might want to consider updating your documents at that point.
Okay. All right. Ashley Myers Jackson joins us. She is has a mobile law firm, and she specializes in real estate, estate planning, and personal injury. And her goal is to make legal services relatable, comfortable, and convenient for the clients she serves. She's been talking to us today about making sure that you have what you need for your adult children. I have to say that because, again, being 18 doesn't mean you're an adult, but
No.
certainly it does give you some rights. And many of our kids are going off to college or whatever. And mom and dad, you want to make sure that if you need to make some decisions for your child, whether it be financial or medical, that you have the paperwork that you need, because just because you gave birth to that child and he or she's been living in your house for 17.5 years and now they're gone, the law doesn't look at that. They look at that child as being a legal adult that has all of their rights. But what happens if they are not able to make decisions on their own? You
Mhm.
want to make sure that you have documentation in place. When we opened up the segment, you talked about life transition and hybrid, and those are
Mhm.
the three areas you tell people they need to make sure that they've got their life, their paperwork in order. Let's talk,
Mhm.
let's break all those three of those down. What's the life? What needs to happen?
Okay, so the life documents are those powers of attorney that we kind of touched on a few minutes ago. So the
Right.
healthcare power of attorney, durable, and your living will. And those documents are the documents that are effective while you're living. But the moment you transition or pass away, those documents expire. They are no longer valid. You cannot use them. And I have seen cases where people have tried, and it's just not going to work. You can't use power of attorney once the person who gave authority passes away.
So these are forms that every adult should have, with, and it gives you directives for when they are living and maybe are incapacitated.
That's right. That's
Right.
exactly right. And then your transition document is the one that everybody is familiar with. That's your will.
Yeah.
Okay. And the will is the document that it really only, even though you sign the will while you're living, it's really not an effective document until you transition or pass away and a court approves it. So I've had clients come in my office and they plan for, their kids to have their house and this and that. And then they're like, well, my kid can't have my house right now, right? I'm like, no, sir, you definitely have to pass
Right.
away.
Right.
And the court has to deem this will to be valid before any of that happens. So
Right.
the will is a document that, and I will say this too on the will. A lot of times people think that because they have a will, that they will be avoiding the probate process. And that is absolutely not true. Your will is a surefire way to end up in the probate process. But the
Mhm.
will does a lot of things. It allows you to state who should be responsible for who wrapping up your affairs once you're done. So essentially, kind of like the person who you gave authority to handle your business matters, is usually the same person. It will allow them to disperse your property as you've outlined in your will. The will also gives you authority to list guardians for any minor children that you may have. And this is not where we're talking about adult children, but minor children, children who are under the age of 18, or children who have a mental incapacitation or
Right.
something that, children who might need guardianship. So you get
Right.
to nominate who you would like to act as their guardians, both over their person
Right.
and
Right.
their finances. So
Yeah.
that's what your will allows you to do in addition to dispersing your property.
Yeah, I know, like I said, this is such a hard conversation for people to have because people don't want to talk about death.
Yeah.
But listen, it's so necessary because it's inevitable. And I think we all know and have seen a family fall apart when somebody dies and
Hmm.
nobody knows what mama
What
wanted.
to do. Yeah. And, the bigger thing, and I try to kind of shift the conversation from life ending to more of, this is a generational thing, and we're
Yeah.
building generational
Yes,
wealth.
I
When
love
we
it.
allow our children, when we put our children in certain positions, we allow them to utilize the things that we work so hard for as leverage for them to be able to do better things than what we've done. Imagine if you had an investment property or two and you properly dictated where those houses should go, or even that they be sold and that proceeds go to your children for them to utilize for a business or for a down payment on a house or whatever it is. These are methods of you ensuring that your children will be well taken care of, even though you're not here. So
Yeah,
we have to kind of shift and move past the finality of it. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're all going to leave. But what will your legacy be when you're gone? That's
exactly.
kind of what I like to focus on, that legacy piece.
Yeah. Attorney Ashley Myers Jackson joined us today. Listen, if you are just joining us, please hit the replay button because she has dropped such great information. One, as far as how we should, and I love that you're saying we are legacy planning. We are making sure our ducks are in a row, our coins are in order, so that those who come after us, or those that will be here, they have a foundation, so to speak, in
Yeah.
place. And like she said, shift the conversation. I know this is something we don't like to talk about, and it causes us so much angst. But maybe shift the conversation, as Ashley said, into legacy building, legacy planning. She also shared some great information. If you've got some kids that are over 17, 18 years and older, that are, whether they're in your house or out of their house, that you may not realize you really don't any longer after 18 have legal rights over them. And particularly those of, if you have kids that are away in college or away working, you want to make sure that if something, God forbid, happens to them, and it may not be that they transition or pass away, however you like to say it, but they could be sick. And who can make the decisions? Not you, if you don't have those forms in order. Ashley, if people want more information about how to navigate this, I know that one of your goals and your mission is to really kind of get into communities and help people relate to, let this information be relatable. How can they get in touch with you?
Certainly, you can email us at info at Myers Jackson Law Firm. At info at MyersJacksonLaw.com. Also, our website is MyersJacksonLaw.com. We can be reached by phone at 803-394-4461. And we also have a Facebook page, Myers Jackson Law.
All right. You can see all of that information on the screen. Please contact Attorney Myers Jackson for more information. This is information that we really need to be conscientious about, take advantage of. And once again, if you are just joining us, please hit the replay button and please post and share so we can get this information to the masses. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, this is such great information. I mean, I've learned something today, and I'm sure a lot of people have also, because this is something we really got to do better at. We really have to do better at doing.
Definitely.
I'm not trying to put you out of business, girl, but we need to do better at it.
No, we do. We definitely do. And I encourage our community to just get out there, get out of your heads and just think about your children. Really, that's at the end of the day, it really is all about your legacy and your children.
Yeah. Attorney Ashley Myers Jackson with Ashley Myers Jackson Law Firm in Columbia, South Carolina. Thank you, beautiful. We appreciate you so much joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Tre Tailor. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. Hey, before I leave, I want to share this devotional with you. This is from Conversations with God. It's from Cheryl Mims Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services in Columbia, South Carolina. This is such a great book. It includes some of her prayers, some of her diary readings, and devotionals. This one says, "Trust me, my child. I know you're having a hard time praying, studying, and focusing on me. I know you don't like the way this feels. You can't rely on your feelings." That's good. This is about knowing, being faithful, and holding on. Knowing even if you don't feel or see it. Isn't that such a wonderful reminder that God is with us always, even if we don't feel it, see it, or hear it? We've got to know it. That's what faith is all about. It's from Cheryl Mims Williams from Agape Counseling and Training Services. This is called Conversations with God. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you so much for joining us on Coping. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. The good thing about it is that we're never alone. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive. Ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 ways to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive